This is gonna be interesting. This is gonna be super interesting. What's going on, everybody? My name is Terrence, the therapist. Thank you guys for tapping in. If you guys haven't already, make sure you just like, share, and subscribe to the channel. First of all, I want to thank you guys for tapping in. We recently reached 100 subscribers, so thank you guys so much for your guys' support within this last couple months and just rocking with your boy and checking out the content. So I decided to go a little bit more intimate with this video. So this is my journey as a therapist going to therapy. The question I always get is, do therapists go to therapy? And the answer is yes, therapists do go to therapy, absolutely. Going to therapy actually makes you a better therapist, believe it or not. So I'll get right into the first time I experienced anxiety and my journey initially going to therapy. So the year was about 2016, 2017, around that time. And during that time, I had a lot going on, to say the least. I had a lot going on during that time. So during that time, I was going to grad school, working full time. I was also doing a bunch of side gigs, from like doing Postmates to donating plasma, Amazon Flex, all the side hustles you can think about. I was most definitely hopping on there. So there's always this thing, I don't know if it's just like a perspective from men or just, you know, kind of just putting your head down and just kind of focusing on what you need to focus on to accomplish that goal. And one of the goals I did want to accomplish was finishing school. And when I was in school, it was about for 3 years. If you guys go back to my old videos, I have a live I did not too long ago about my anxiety about returning back to school. So during this time, again, I had a lot going on. And the crazy thing is, I didn't know I had a lot going on. My programming, how I always thought about myself was, again, putting my head down and focus what you need to focus on. I knew there was an end goal. Going to schools for 3 years, and after that, I knew that I can, you know, land a job somewhere and be able to not have to work so much or work so hard. And plus, I would never have to go back to school ever again because my degree was a terminal degree, which means that I can just use my degree to get licensed and I wouldn't have to go back to school ever again. One of the problems that I realized is that I needed help during that time, first, and secondly, I was constantly burnt out. And what it means to be constantly burnt out is never giving a break, never giving yourself opportunity to practice self-care, never giving yourself opportunity to separate yourself from work or school. My week was literally something going on every day. Monday, I would work full time, and then I go home and do schoolwork. Tuesday, I would go to work full time, and afterwards I had class. Wednesdays, I would work full time, and afterwards do schoolwork. Thursdays was just like Tuesdays. I would have to go to work, then go to school. And mind you, when I went to school, when I went to grad school, what my days looked like on like the Tuesdays and those Thursdays, and even every other day was, I had to commute. So I was coming from LA and going to Northridge. So I would literally wake up around 5 in the morning, and I would probably get home maybe around like 10, 11 o'clock at night after I'm done with class. Friday, I squeezed in my internships. So while you're in grad school, you do have to do an internship as well too. That's something that I had to add into my schedule with my schoolwork. So Fridays all day, I would be at my internship. Saturdays, I would be back at my internship again because I had to do those 24 hours. So it usually might be like, sometimes I'll split it up to 2 12-hour shifts on those 2 days. And then Sundays was like my hustle day. So Sunday was the day I'll do like Postmates in the morning, and maybe I'll do Amazon Flex later on that night. And also with the plasma donating, I did that sometimes before I went to work. So, you know, even though I didn't have to be at work necessarily, not until 8 o'clock or so, but I would wake up at around, you know, 3, 4 o'clock so I can drive down to the valley so I can stand in this plasma donating line. And those lines were interesting because it's a first come, first serve, and they paid pretty well at the time from what I thought was being paid well, which is like about $75 to like $80 a week for donating plasma twice a week. And then they had these bonuses and stuff like that. So that was always maybe an extra $400 or $500 a month that I was able to add to my income, which was super, super helpful. So Sundays, again, was my hustle day. So I'll do Postmates and I'll do Amazon Flex all day. And then I'll just be back on the grind on Monday. So even thinking about that, doing that for 3 years, I was like, you know, this is sustainable. I know this is something I can do. There is an end goal and there is a reason why I'm doing this. But that didn't stop me from having anxiety. That did not stop me from feeling frustrated all the time. That did not stop me from any mental health symptoms at all. So even looking back during that time, I always had to make a vow to myself, like I at least need, you know, some time off. You know, I can't go 7 days a week. I can't put myself in a position of burning myself out. I can't put myself in a position of feeling overwhelmed. At first, you know, the system kind of worked, you know, like the first year wasn't too bad. You know, it doesn't feel bad when you have money, you're able to pay for school, and I was able to, you know, have a little bit of money in my pocket. So like that always grounded me. I was like, you know what? If I didn't do this, what are my other options? So fast forward into like the last year of grad school. So the last year of grad school is probably the most intense year of grad school because I had some things that I need to take care of. As far as my capstone presentation, which takes a lot of work, it's similar to like a thesis presentation, except you do it more in a project model instead of written material. And it just came really to the point where I was just like, you know what, this is a lot. This is a lot. And even during that time, I was willing to just keep pushing through until May 2018 when I knew I was able to cross that stage. And I no longer had to worry about doing all these extra side gigs, doing all these extra things because I knew there was going to be an end goal. So when did I know I had an issue with my anxiety? There was a point of time where the place I was working at was really, really getting to me, and it was really, really agitating, and it wasn't really fulfilling. And again, I knew that I just had to stick with it until I graduated. I remember at this particular job, I really, really, even though I really, really didn't like it, I always put myself in a position of doing the best that I can. And sometimes that can be harmful in situations as well too, because when you're really good at something, people rely on you for a lot of different things. So I was running groups back to back, I was running individuals back to back. And even to this day, you know, I feel like I could have handled the situation better. But when you're in the mode of being upset, when you're in the mode of just not wanting to be somewhere already, everything's fair game. Everything is fair game. You really don't care about too much of nothing, you know what I mean? But what happened was there was a situation where one of the program managers came into our clinic one day and was doing like an audit or something like that. And I don't know what the person saw or whatever it is, but they said, "Terrence, you are not doing a damn thing." That right there, that set me all the way off. And to this day, I don't really even know why they said that. I don't even know what the motive was. Like, I just feel like, you know, it was just energy that was transferred to me. But when that energy is transferred to me, it's fair game. So I went in there, I was cussing everybody out. I walked off the job. I called my other coworker and was telling them about the situation. I was like, you know what? I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm not coming back anymore. And I left in the way that a lot of people, even from other offices, were calling me. It was like, "Hey, Terrence, are you straight? Like, what happened?" I was like, man, I had to keep reliving the situation, telling people everything that was going on. And then I remember I got to a point, I got home, I was sitting in my car and I was like, man, this is not the way to live. This is not okay. And instantly, even when I went home, I kind of felt bad about how I went about the situation. But even in that moment, I felt like I did what I knew best to do in that situation. I talked to a few people, I talked to some friends, told them about the situation. Even they have pointed out, was like, well, you know, you have been kind of off lately. I'm like, what do you mean I've been off lately? It's like, well, you know, you sound like you're stressed out. You sound like there's something going on with you that, you know, you have work, you're in school, you know, you're doing all these different things, you're working all the time, right? So then I really had to sit back and think about, you know, it wasn't that one person and what they said, because normally I can better compose myself when somebody tells you something by, you know, just simply educating them on why they're wrong. But in the way that I did it, you know, I knew there was something going on. There was an issue that I had to address. In that moment, I really didn't know like how therapy worked. Ironically, even though I was running group therapy and individual therapy in my internship and my practicums, I didn't really know how therapy went as far as like how can somebody like myself be linked to therapy. What was crazy was I didn't even like call a therapist initially. I scheduled like a doctor's appointment with my doctor and I told them what was going on. And like, I wanted to check my blood pressure and make sure I wasn't like, have high blood pressure, because I, was very stressed out and overwhelmed. And my doctor did agree and was like, hey, like, you are dealing with a lot of things. Like, that's a lot on your plate. And I was like, you know what? I think you're right. I think there's a lot of stuff going on. And even in that moment, like, I was like, yeah, you're right, but I don't have a choice. I have to push through, because I have this goal of finishing school, and I have to make sure that I am financially stable going through school. So like, there really isn't no option right now. So the doctor was the one that referred me to go to therapy. He was like, hey, I think you need to talk to a therapist. So initially I was like, you know what, kind of being hypocritical, was like, I don't know if I want to go to therapy. I don't know if I want to participate in therapy. I don't know if I need to see anybody, because I know what the issue is, and this is a conditional thing. When I started therapy, there was a gentleman that I saw, and he was kind of breaking everything down. The first session was like, hey, nah, like, you're doing this, you're doing that. Look at how much sleep you're getting. You don't have no leisure time. Look at how the relationships are going on around you. And even just your demeanor, like, he was looking at me then, he's like, you just look tired. You just look tired. That was the time I really had to sit back and was like, yeah, you know what? I think this is something that I need to, address. And I was able to address some of those things while I was in therapy. So one of the things that my therapist identified the first time was my belief system and what I felt like was right compared to what my body was feeling like was right. Because what I felt like was like, I can grind, I can hustle, I can do all these different things, but at the same time, my body is not going to respond well to the hustle and the grind right now. One of the things he even just shared with me, because he was saying he was in similar situations and was in similar spaces as well too. He was saying to me that, yeah, like, he did the same thing and he had those same beliefs as well too. But consequently, he's had people in his family that had high blood pressure, on dialysis, had all these different health issues. And I was like, you know what? I have family members on dialysis and high blood pressure, not necessarily saying because they were unhealthy in a way of like what they ate and they're overweight, but the stress is what really got them. And the stress is what really put them in a situation of having their health be compromised. It wasn't really necessarily about what they ingested, but what they consumed internally. You know what I mean? It did feel good to relieve some of those things and some of those pressures I felt like I needed to do. One of the things my therapist did suggest was like, getting a financial advisor. I really didn't budget my money, you know what I mean? I really didn't put anything on the sales sheet or like, oh, I get paid this much, I get paid that much. It was just like, I'm just getting paid instant. I'm getting paid like off Postmates. I'm getting paid off of Amazon Flex. I'm getting paid off of my job. I'm getting different things. So I'm not really worrying about I'm worrying about just my bills, and everything else is like, whatever. So was just really seeing like, how much do I need to work in order to sustain myself for the last year? Me going to therapy, the benefits of going to therapy when I first initially went was just immaculate. It just put me in a perspective of, and understanding what my belief system of what hard work was, what the relationship I had with money, because that was a situation that I was able to identify. Like, my relationship with money was really, really funny. So as most people, money will stress you out. And in therapy, one of the things I was able to connect was my relationship with money and how I operate, how I move, and how I internalize my everyday around money, and how there's so many different things that are more important than money, like your health. You know what I mean? You can't enjoy your money if your health is out of whack. That's just facts. You know what I mean? Even though I was in therapy probably for like a couple months or so until I felt better. I was going like every other week. So my therapist really put me in a good position as a start of going to therapy and introducing me to therapy, even though, I'll probably get into another video because of why I really stopped therapy. I was feeling better, but there was like some things going on. I feel like there was a little bit bias there because we didn't see eye to eye on certain things, which was perfectly okay. But I feel like my therapist initially, he did a great job with introducing me to like coping skills. So yes, that's my story and how I got introduced to therapy. It was during the time that I felt really stressed out in grad school, and I felt like I had all these different things going on, and my belief system told me to hustle and grind and do what I have to do. in order to get to the point where I wanted to get to. And that belief isn't necessarily gone away 100%, but one of the things that I do now is I do things gracefully with my hustle and grind. I don't put myself in a position of compromising any of my well-being, any of my health, any of my stress, and I don't put myself in a position of where I was in 2016, 2017. Stress is inevitable. You know, there's times I do stress out. That's not what I'm saying as far as just being realistic. Like, stress is a part of our life, but to that point to where I was before, where I was feeling really upset and I've had these anger outbursts, I felt like there wasn't no give. Honestly, I vowed to myself that I would never get to that point. Even if stress comes to this day, like, I don't get to that point where I get super upset or like I curse people out or anything like that, because, you know, anxiety does turn into anger. You know, anxiety does turn into anger, and that's not something that we always talk about, because anxiety always looks more so like, you know, traditionally, like, you know, shaking or like, you know, panic attacks and things of that nature. But having a verbal or physical outburst can be a sign of anxiety. Thank you guys for tapping in. I appreciate you guys. Again, thank you guys for subscribing, and thank you guys for tapping in. You know what I mean? We have a lot more stuff that we got coming up as far as content wise. I just wanted to share my experience as a therapist and my first time going to therapy. I hope this story resonated with you and that you get the help that you deserve. Until next time, you guys have a good one. Peace.